Alright everybody, welcome back! After how many of y'all enjoy the F-15 variant video, I thought it'd be the perfect time to go ahead and cover the Soviet counterpart, the Su-27 flanker and its derivatives. Just as with the F-15 video, I will not be covering every Su-27 variant, just the Soviet or Russian ones we could actually expect to come to the game. To give y'all a heads up, I'm not as confident in the Su-27 as I am on the F-15, and information is a little scarce on the English internet, but I'm like 98% sure that everything I say here should be accurate. There are a lot of flankers as well, so let's get started. So, since there are so many derivatives of the Su-27, I figured it'd be a good idea to go ahead and start off with overall characteristics for most of these aircraft. And they are big, and I mean really big. It dwarfs planes like the MiG-29 and F-15, and the weight really shows it. It's about 4,000 kilograms heavier than the F-15C empty. The thing is, because it's so massive, it has plenty of wing area and lift, meaning that it still performs well in the dogfight. As you can see here, overall, the F-15 and the Su-27 are actually fairly close in terms of agility, with the edge going to the flanker, I would say. Keep this in mind for pretty much all the flankers I talk about today, as most of them will share a very similar flight performance. The F-15 has better thrust to weight and better energy retention, along with better high-speed sustained turn and higher top speed, both at altitude and on the deck. On the other hand, the Su-27 has better instantaneous turn at all speeds, while having better sustained turn below around 700 kilometers an hour. It also has much better AOA capability as well when compared to the Eagle, though the F-15 is no slouch. It can still pull 30 degrees AOA, stable. I expect the F-15 will be more ergonomic in ARB, where keeping your energy up is critical, while still having a good turn rate in AOA. But in a 1v1 dogfight, the Su-27 is almost certainly going to win. The only chance the F-15 has is dragging it out to exploit its higher thrust-to-weight ratio and better energy retention, but that will just get negated by the weapon systems. So with that general idea out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the actual variants that we can expect. First off, we have the very first production flanker, which is the Su-27S or Flanker B. It entered service around 1985 or so, and this is the variant that I would say is most likely to come with the next update, slotting in behind the Su-17M4. This Su-27 has no access to activator homing missiles, but it does carry more missiles than any other fighter currently in-game, with 10 pylons for air-to-air loads. It would almost certainly come with R-73 stock, as production Su-27s didn't carry the R-60M, although there is a slight chance that Gaijin could add it as to technicalities and some prototypes did, but I really don't see them doing that. The outer 4 pylons are R-73 only, with one more being dual-purpose R-73 or R-27 for a maximum of 6 R-73s. Speaking of the R-27, the Su-27 can carry up to 6 of them, including the R, T, ER, and ET. However, it is limited to only 2 of the heat-seeking R-27, so don't expect to be able to run 6 R-27 ETs and beam people with no warning for space. This leaves you with a typical kit of 4 R-73s and 6 R-27 ERs, or ETs if you'd rather for 2 of them. The Su-27S, like the F-15A, also doesn't use any guided ordnance, instead of relying on dumb bombs and rockets for any anti-ground duties. Nice and short, next we have the Su-27K, which is an export version of the Su-27S with a slightly different radar and downgraded avionics, which won't matter at all in game. In real life, of course, this was sold to China, and they did go out later on develop into the J-11. This may come with the Russian Su-27 at the same time, but personally, I think they're going to wait and just let the Russians have the Su-27 first, like they've done with Germany for all their MiG-23s, MiG-21s, and MiG-29s, except for the MiG-21 MF, 4 years ago now? The Su-27P is another very simple one. It's just an Su-27S with the multi-role capability stripped out, so a pure fighter. This could also come instead of the Su-27S, but Gaijin seems keen on adding more multi-role vehicles for the most part. If we do get the Su-27S instead, I doubt that this variant would ever come at all. Maybe we get one of them as an event vehicle, but I think it'll either be one or the other in-game. So next is the Su-30. This is known as the Su-27PU or the Flanker C, and it's another variant that I kind of doubt will actually come to the game. It has all the same armament options as the Su-27S, and the biggest thing for the game at least is just the fact that it has increased range over the normal Su-27, which won't actually matter in game. This just leaves it as a heavier twin-seat SE27 in practice, and to be honest, I could totally see this being an event vehicle or premium, but I don't think this is going to be like a tech tree edition or something to look forward to. Now, the SE33, which is also known as the SE27K or the Flanker D, is the last, and in my opinion, the most interesting of the Soviet-era flankers. Technically, it didn't enter service until after the fall of the Soviet Union, but it flew before that, so I decided to include it here anyways. So, this is the carrier-based flanker and has quite a few upgrades, most likely coming after the Ak-141. It has engines with more low-speed thrust, larger wings, and canards as well. This lowers its wing loading and stall speed, making it more maneuverable, but it does lose some top speed because of that. The greatest thing in its favor is getting 2 extra pylons, which gives it a maximum of 8 R-27s instead of 6, which is kind of absurd. Otherwise, the actual models of the missiles themselves are the same, minus the addition of the R-27EM, which is basically an ER with a seeker head that's optimized for low and ultra-low altitude, though I'm unsure if Gaijin would actually implement this. It does actually gain 1 guided air-to-surface missile, the absolute chonker that is the KH-41. That is, of course, assuming that Gaijin actually adds more anti-ship missiles in the future. Before I move on to the SE-27s that actually have, active radar homing missiles, I'd like to take a second to explain my thought process behind why I think we'll get an SE-27S with no R-77 to fight the F-15C with the AMRAAM. So keep in mind, this is all just speculation, and I could be totally off. It's just my personal thought process. So first of all, I don't believe that Gaijin will give the F-15 its full kit of 8 AMRAAMs right off the bat. They've artificially restricted the number of missiles before, and it wouldn't shock me at all if they restricted the maximum number of AMRAAM to 4 for now, to match stuff like the Gripen, for example, before increasing it later. So assuming they do that, that would leave the SE-27 as having more radar missiles with 6, and the R-27ER actually does outrange and is better kinematically than both the AMRAAM A and B and the R-77, although of course it's not active homing, which is a disadvantage. So if I am correct, they're going to have the SE-27 with the R-73 as the plane with the close range advantage but weaker radar missiles, and the F-15 of course is vice versa. Kind of a return to the old meta of Soviets having better IR and the US better radar missiles. They would then give the Yak-141 and the MiG-29 SMT the R-77 instead, as Russia's Fox 3 Slingers. Of course, I could be totally wrong, and they just plow ahead and give us the R-77 SE-27, and speaking of... So let's go ahead and start off the Russian era with the SE-27 SM, the Flanker J1, which is the first upgrade package for the SE-27 SRP. The radar received some small changes, which increased its full stoppable capability, and it also went ahead and made it compatible with the new R-77 missile, which is the greatest change, along with receiving the R-73M as well. It can carry 6 R-77s, just like the R-27ER, and of course the R-73M slots right on the normal R-73 pylons for 6 total. It also gains access to the KH-31 ARP anti-radiation and ship missiles. Overall, very similar to the previous SE-27S, just now it has upgraded missiles instead. This upgrade also went ahead and made it a multi-role aircraft, giving it stuff like the KAB-500 guided bomb, the KH-29T, the KH-31s, and even the KH-59, which does require a data link pod, so we may not get in the game, but just know this is definitely a multi-role SE-27. The next upgrade package that we can expect to see for the SE-27 will be the SE-27 SM3, which is known as the Flanker J2. This is the most modern of the upgrades for like the original SE-27 airframe, although these are newly built SE-27 SM airframes. It received another small radar upgrade allowing for the R-77-1 missile to be used now, which is a much improved version of the original R-77, which has greater range. It of course also carries the same R-73 kit as the previous SM, and I believe it also gained access to the R-74, although evidence of this is sparse on the English-speaking internet, so I can't be 100% sure. An extra 2 pylons now lets it carry up to 8 R-77s and 4 R-73s, or 6 of each. It gained new engines that were both more powerful and more fuel efficient, and a very nice upgrade. It no longer has the old SPO-15 series of RWR. Instead it's one called the Kabini L-150 Pastel. I probably hardly mispronounced that. And this will almost certainly be the last of the planes labeled SE-27, either in-game or in real life. The SM-3 does also gain an additional 2 pylons for air-to-ground munitions compared to the original SM. So for example, you can bring 6 KH-29Ts instead of only 4 like on the SM. Now we get to what many people think of when they think of the modern flanker, the SU-30SM Flanker H. This has basically the same kit as the SU-27 SM3, the R-73 and most likely R-74 family, R-77s and R-77-1, although it can carry 10 R-77s and an 8, and of course 12 air-to-air pylons. But here's the kicker. It actually has 3D thrust vectoring nozzles. The original SM has the original engines from the S, which kind of hinders it, but the SU-30 M2 upgrade gives it better engines as well. This is one of the deadliest flankers when it comes to the dogfight, and thrust vectoring will give it a nasty advantage after emerge, although of course it does have the caveat of some massive speed bleed of course. Now before we get to the last flanker, we actually have the only plane on this list that actually isn't called a flanker, which is the SU-34 fullback. This is basically the F-15E of the SU-27 family, being heavier and a bit slower than the normal SU-27s, but gaining plenty of air-to-ground capability as well. This includes air-to-ground missiles like the KH-29 and guided bombs, including up to 3 absolutely massive 1,500 kilogram TV guided bombs, which I really want in game. This aircraft will most likely come in the far right line after the SU-24, which should itself come after the MiG-27K. As for air-to-air capability, it can still carry up to 6 R-73 or M, or up to 8 R-77s as well, so while not as impressive as the more dedicated fighters, it's still more than enough to protect itself, and it's definitely no slouch. Last but certainly not least, the SU-35S Flanker M. This is the very last flanker ever made, at least as of now, and of course it is the most modern as well. This will be the best dogfighter out of any of the flankers, and also offer the greatest missile and avionics kit as well. Now, just to give y'all a heads up, there's been some rumors about a rearward-facing radar. It doesn't exist. There's actually no evidence of it existing at all. I can carry up to 12 R-77 ones, the most of any flanker, and I was also able to confirm that it can indeed in fact carry the R-74M. It also gains access to up to 4 of the extremely long-range R-37M missile, which, if the Russians are to be believed, has up to 400 kilometer range. Now, of course, range isn't everything, we don't know how hard it pulls, but that is still incredibly impressive. Now, even without this missile, 12 pylons, which you can carry R-77s in all of them, or the R-74M, of course, in 6 of them, with thrust vectoring, stronger engines will still be an incredible fighter for top tier regardless. For those of y'all who want multi-role, it has access to up to 8 guided munitions, whether that be guided bombs or missiles, and overall, this is going to be an incredibly effective fighter. Once we get up to, Gen 4.5, stuff like the F-15EX, the late blocker fouls, everything else. In any case, though, I hope you all enjoyed this video. This took me much longer to make than I expected, and I had no idea just how many flanker variants there were. There were a ton of them I actually just didn't cover, just because, I doubt they're going to come to the game. So if you want to do some more research on your own, feel free. There is a huge rabbit hole when it comes to Sukhoi variants. But in any case, hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'm probably going to do the Griffin next. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. I'll catch y'all next time. So, peace, y'all.